6 sinister childhood stories of cursed memories, revealed haunting trauma that terrifies forever. The diner sat alone on the corner of Maple and Pine, crumbling at the seams as Laura and her 5 childhood friends gathered for the first time in over a decade. The flickering neon sign hummed like a ghostly whisper, bathing their faces in an unsettling glow. Outside, the streets of Willow's End lay desolate, shadows weaving among the empty houses, silent witnesses to what was about to unfold. It was supposed to be a friendly reunion, but the air felt thick, as if the very essence of dread clung to them like a shroud. "Do you think it really happened?" Laura's voice quivered as she broke the uneasy silence. Laughter echoed back, light and easy, but each friend wore a mask polished over forgotten horrors. They all knew the stories, the unspeakable events where innocence collided with gloom. Mark leaned in, eyes darkened. "I still see it, the old Willow Grove School." The words hung in the air, drawing the friends back to that cursed night. Each pulse of the diner's heartbeat echoed with a chilling memory, an adventure turned nightmare that unraveled their childhood bond. Laura's chest tightened. She could almost hear the screams, her heart racing as she spoke. "We thought we were brave, didn't we? Sneaking inside, but there was something there. Something dark. I remember Jennifer's face as it happened." The fear in her voice clawed at her friends, unearthing memories better left buried. As she shared her tale, the air in the room shifted. A sudden draft swirled in, chilling them to their bones. They shifted uncomfortably, glancing at the grimy windows framed by the flickering light, searching for shadows lurking in the periphery. Then Robert chimed in, trying to alleviate the brewing tension. "What about the accidents? Remember when Tommy fell off the swing at the park?" Laughter softened the room again, briefly masking their unease. But Mark's face grew serious. "That wasn't clumsiness, it was something more. Something connected to the rest of us." Outside, the wind howled in rage. The streetlights flickered and stuttered like a warning. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the conversation resumed, the air turned electric. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted from outside, sending the group leaping to the windows. They peered into the dark, hearts pounding. What they saw made their blood run cold. A figure loomed with an air of familiarity, a silhouette they thought they had left behind. It was a grotesque reflection of the trusted mayor they once revered. Memories of their childhood fears clawed back, ugly and raw. "I can't believe this is happening," Laura cried, her hands trembling, a cold sweat clinging to her skin. "What did we unleash?" The diner darkened as a power outage swept through, casting them into semi-darkness. The only light flickered from their cell phones, illuminating pale, fear-stricken faces. An unbearable silence engulfed them. And then, from the corner of the room came a voice, echoing like a death knell. "You thought you could escape your past?" Every heart in the room seized. Those words curled around them, suffocating, drowning out memories they wished to forget. Disembodied voices folded into one another, filling the diner with a rumble of despair, a cacophony of their childhood promises. Eyes wide and breaths shallow, they braced themselves as footsteps grew louder, each step creeping closer, closer. What awaited them beyond the door? Would they finally confront the haunted past that loomed like a specter over Willow's End? The door hurled open violently, and terror echoed within as they prepared for the shadows to spill into their fragile reunion. The door slammed open, and the dim light flickered wildly as an icy gust of wind surged into the diner, extinguishing the last vestige of warmth. A figure stepped inside, cloaked in shadow, obscured further by the thickening darkness. Laura felt her heart skip, a fearful anticipation sparking primal instincts. Who are you? She whispered, her voice barely audible above the howling wind outside. But the figure remained silent, an unsettling stillness hanging in the air, vibrating with their shared memories. As the neon buzz faded into an ominous hum, the silhouette took a single step forward, and with it came a sinister familiarity, the familiar shape of the mayor they once trusted. "Are you here to haunt us?" Mark demanded, voice strained and trembling. Those words hung heavy, loaded with guilt and decades of unresolved horror. The figure tilted its head, almost knowingly, and Laura's throat tightened. She remembered that face. But it was wrong now, twisted. "Why are you back?" Jennifer finally dared to ask, her voice steady despite the quiver in her hands. Fear surged through them, electrifying the atmosphere. This wasn't just a reunion, it was a confrontation with the shadows they had long buried. It isn't who chose to return, it finally spoke, its voice echoing with a haunting familiarity. "You called me back. Your fears, your guilt, they woke me." Suddenly, a deep rumbling filled the diner, a tremor that rattled loose the unsteady plates on the counters. "We didn't want you here," Laura shouted, feeling the weight of their collective guilt crashing toward them. An uproar of memories washed over her, scenes of that fateful night flooding her mind, children's laughter twisted into blood-curdling screams, echoes of fear that had long been muffled. "Is it true then? Did she?" Robert gasped, his face pale as realization struck. They had ignored the warnings. They had laughed at the darkness, thinking it a game. But the whispers weren't innocent. They were chilling. The mayor's form shifted, flickering like the power in the diner, eyes narrowing. "You think you were brave? You were careless," it hissed, piercing through their bravado. Each word sliced the air, reminding them of the bonds that once connected them, now frayed and severed by terror. Two of the friends stumbled back, clutching their heads as if trying to block out visions from the past. How could they ever forget the fire, the screams? All the unspoken blame that lay between them bubbled back to the surface. "Stop it. We're done with this," screamed Jennifer, rage igniting as she faced the shadow. "We didn't know." Time seemed to pause momentarily. The air thickened, and in that stillness, the figure lunged forward. They gasped collectively, the room tilted as if the very ground beneath them could shatter. "Only one can escape the truth, my dears," it spat, teeth bared, lighting up its face with a ghastly grin. "Look around you. You are bound to each other by fears that run deeper than blood." And then, without warning, the lights blared back to life, illuminating the diner in blinding brightness. But the figure was gone. They stood frozen, breaths shallow, bewildered. Only moments passed, yet it felt like hours. "Did that really just happen?" Mark murmured, eyes wide with disbelief. "I don't know what to believe anymore," Laura whispered back, the dread creeping back into her bones like ice. Outside, the wind howled louder, a mournful wail enveloping them in shadow once more. A soft thud came from the back door, like a hesitant knock. The fear in the room deepened. What if something was waiting there? What if it was angry? As they moved closer, hesitance cloaked in dread, an icy finger of anxiety slid down Laura's spine. They couldn't let their past poison them, yet it seemed it was never truly gone. The question loomed: could they confront what haunted them, or would it shatter them into oblivion? With a collective breath, they reached for the door. The door creaked open, revealing an oppressive darkness beyond. The wind shrieked its protest, carrying the ice of the outside world into the diner. Laura hesitated, a primal urge to retreat surging through her. But something within drew her closer. "Should we really?" Mark's voice trembled, his doubt tangible in the frigid air. Jennifer's fright mirrored his, her eyes darting nervously to the windows, where the shadows of trees clawed at the glass like skeletal hands. "I'm not afraid," Laura whispered, though a cold sweat began to bead on her forehead. In truth, the fear clawed at her insides, a gnawing dread that something was waiting for them, lurking just beyond the threshold. "I have to know. With a single push, the door swung completely open. Darkness enveloped them, thick and suffocating. The small light from inside faded, swallowed whole by the inky void. The diner's heart now felt vulnerable, exposed. But as they crossed that threshold, it was as if the air itself shifted. A whisper no, a hiss whirled around them. "You shouldn't have invited me back," it breathed softly, chilling them. It wasn't the mayor's voice anymore, it was a multitude of voices, mingling together like a haunting chorus, tearing at the fabric of their sanity. They stumbled back, almost falling into the scattered tables and chairs, their hearts racing. "What do you want?" Robert shouted into the dark, anger mingling with fear. A flicker of movement caught Laura's eye. Shadows elongated and twisted, forming shapes within the darkness. Their memories came flooding back, every replay and regret they had tried to dismiss. "You wanted to forget, didn't you?" The multitude of voices taunted. "But the past doesn't forget." Jennifer gripped Mark's arm, knuckles white with panic. "We should leave. We shouldn't have opened that door." "Wait." Laura's voice cut through the chaos. They couldn't run, not while standing on the precipice of truth. "What do you want from us?" Only a reckoning, the voices unified, reverberating with a rhythmic, sinister glee. "A sacrifice for your silence." Suddenly, Laura's heart sank, a realization dawning. It wasn't just the mayor's ghost they faced, it was all the memories they had tried to bury. The innocent laughter of the children, the accident each moment laden with guilt, a web of lies they'd spun to protect themselves. "No," she breathed, "we were just kids." "That innocence costs dearly," the shadows hissed back, swirling around them, invading their senses with the stench of ash and despair. "You think hiding will free you? It only binds you tighter." Panic surged like fire through their veins. They backed away, only to find the door magically sealed shut. "We must face it," Robert shouted, desperation in his tone. "Or it will consume us." Jennifer shook her head, eyes gleaming with tears. "What if it's too late?" The shadows seemed to draw closer, tightening their hold, whispering dark secrets they had never spoken aloud. Each friend began to remember why they had kept their distance from one another. Fingers of blame stalked among them, stinging as they recalled the choices they made. "I won't let this be the end," Laura screamed, feeling a surge of defiance. "We can fight it." "Fight what?" Mark cried, his voice cracking under the weight of anguish. "This isn't monster, it's us." Then, from the corner, a soft glow appeared, like a hope flickering in the dark. They turned, eyes wide, as ghostly figures began to emerge, children wrapped in joy and laughter, but their voices now twisted with echoing terror. "No! Please," Laura gasped, her heart pounding in her chest. They weren't angry, just lost, needing a resolution that had long evaded them. Suddenly, the front windows shattered with an ear-piercing crash. Shards flew, twinkling in the air like deadly confetti, each piece reflecting faces twisted in horror. The shadows began to engulf the hum of laughter, warping it into wails of agony. As they fell to the floor in shock, a chilling thought seeped into Laura's mind. What awaited them on the other side of that darkness? Together or not at all, she gasped. Desperate. But could they truly escape the relentless tide of guilt? Or would the sinister memories consume them whole, anchoring them forever in despair? That flickering light beckoned them, yet it felt like a cursed lure. With one last glance back at the shadows pressing in, they began to follow the glow. The glow intensified as they stepped deeper into the darkness. It became a beacon, flickering like a heartbeat, each pulse urging them forward. The ghostly shapes loomed larger, their faces growing clearer, eyes wide with terror, mouths open in silent screams. "Stay close," Laura commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. They clung to one another, the warmth of their body surprisingly comforting amidst the cold. Each step felt more like a descent into an abyss, a reluctant swim against an undertow of shame and sorrow. they ventured past what appeared to be a doorway carved from shadows, leading to a room cloaked in deathly silence. Heavy drapes hung from the ceiling like mourning veils, their edges frayed and dark. The children's laughter faded, replaced by an eerie stillness that pressed against their eardrums. "What is this place?" Mark murmured, skin prickling as if they were being watched. His breath came in shallow gulps. Was it the terror? Or did something else lurk in the corners? Suddenly, a flash of memory pierced through the haze, a flash of bright colors tinted with laughter from long ago. The children had played here, so carefree. But that laughter twisted, morphing into a mocking cackle echoing now in the dead air. "What did we do?" Laura whispered, her voice trembling as the shadows seemed to pulse with a sinister rhythm. "What happened to us?" "No, it can't be." Jennifer's voice trailed off as she squinted into the gloom. It was there, the outline of a swing set, rusty but familiar, an old playground their parents had torn down after the accident. Once a realm of joy, now steeped in sorrow, it stood as a monument to their past. "Step away from it. It's just a memory," Robert shouted, but it was too late. They were drawn in, unable to resist the pull of the past that gripped them like iron chains. As they approached, the shadows morphed into flashes of that fateful day, children playing, laughter ringing out, then the chilling, sickening moment of the accident. Frozen in time, they relived it, the forgotten horror, the crash, the screams that clawed their hearts. The shadows were feeding on their guilt, twisting the memories until they became grotesque caricatures of horror. "Please. No. We didn't mean for it to happen." Laura screamed, the anguish ripping from her throat. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but the darkness laughed, delighted in their suffering. The glow dimmed, dimming their hopes along with it. They backed away, panic rising like venom in their veins. "It's too much. We can't handle this," Jennifer cried, and with every whispered protest, the darkness slithered closer, suffocating them in the weight of their regret. "Hold on," Laura shouted, striking out against the walls of shadow, but every attempt was met with mocking whispers. "You wanted to forget? You think this will set you free?" The children's faces, now spectral and tortured, surrounded them. Their hollow eyes bored into Laura, each reflecting the truth she had buried deep. "You're bound to us," they echoed in unison, a ghostly choir that stripped away her defiance piece by piece. "We need to confront this," Mark yelled, voice trembling. "We can't let it win." The shadows surged, darkness crashing against them like an ocean wave, drowning out all hope with its cold grip. And there, amid the chaos, Laura felt a surge of something, rage? No, it's guilt, festering and stronger than ever. "Then let us face it together," she shouted, though uncertainty gnawed at her resolve. Would they emerge from this as friends, or would the shadows pull them apart forever? But just before the shadows could consume them, the flickering light burst forth anew, brighter than before. It captivated their attention, a new chance shimmering in the darkness. But could shining light flourish in such intense gloom? "What is it?" Robert gasped, as the light expanded, creating a tunnel of warmth that beckoned them closer. As they inched forward, a chorus of quiet whispers filled the air, urging them on, but beyond that light lay another secret, a deeper darkness yet to be uncovered. Would they dare to know what awaited them? Or would the past prove too monstrous to confront? They stepped into the light, the warmth washing over them like a comforting embrace. But it was deceptive, a false sanctuary. As they crossed the threshold, they could feel the shadows clawing at their backs, desperate to pull them into mourning once more. The whispers grew louder, filling their ears with hissing betrayals, distorted echoes of their past. "Where are we?" Jennifer's voice was tiny, fragile in the face of such overwhelming resonance. "This has to be better than the other place," Laura muttered, her heart racing, hope wrestling with dread. Yet, as they scanned their surroundings, their breath caught. Before them stood a vast expanse of what appeared to be a decayed playground. Swings creaked eerily, and a merry-go-round, long abandoned, gleamed under the spectral light. the flickering illuminated a shattered world frozen in time. The laughter of children long gone hung like a thin veil in the air, shimmering just beyond their reach. The light warped and twisted, distorting their vision, making it hard to separate past from present. "Do you remember these swings?" Mark whispered, stepping timidly towards the rusted metal. The memories flooded back. The joy of playing tag, the thrill of soaring through the air, but now, it felt so wrong. The swings rocked back and forth without wind, as if they beckoned to unseen figures. "No," Robert shook his head, backing away. "We shouldn't be here. This was never right." "They're just memories," Laura said, trying to stave off the rising panic. "Ghosts of the past. They can't hurt us if we don't let them." But deep inside, she felt it, the gnawing dread creeping back. The forgotten tragedy threatened to rise like a shadow from the ground, aching to be uprooted from the corners of their minds. Suddenly, a child's laughter pierced the eerie silence, sharp and bright like glass. It echoed around them, bouncing off the remnants of their childhood. The sound weaved through the darkness, flickering the light in and out, as if something was tethered to that sound, alive and waiting for the right moment to unleash devastation. "Did you hear that?" Jennifer gasped, eyes wide, rooted in place. All certainty fled from her posture. "It's just a trick," Mark insisted, but the way he clenched his fists revealed his fear. A figure began to materialize, vague at first, then sharper, revealing a child glowing with an unsettling brightness. The child's face twisted in a disturbingly joyful grin, mouth open in a silent scream as they reached out, beckoning them closer. "Stay back!" Laura shouted, holding her ground, which was thinning with fear. "You're not real." But the child stepped closer, the outstretched hand beckoning, and suddenly, Laura found herself moving, stepping toward the phantom. It felt like a pull, like an unseen string pulling her against her will. Those familiar eyes held something dark and powerful, a promise of secrets that washed over her like an unforgiving tide. "Laura!" Mark shouted, his voice threading through the chaos. The flickering lights dimmed, pulsing with each heartbeat, making it harder to breathe, as if the shadows were reclaiming their victims. With a surge of defiance, Laura fought the tug, her feet finding purchase again. "No! I want tea!" The spinning laughter warped into a guttural sneer, reverberating through the playground. All at once, the attractions began to rattle, tipping the scales from innocent memory to a haunting nightmare. As the swing set swung higher, it turned toward them, rusted chains jangling like warnings of despair and entrapment. "What do you want from us?" Laura screamed, desperation igniting hope against the darkening horizon of their twisted memories. A chorus of voices answered, whispering promises of truths buried long ago, taunts, playful yet malicious. "We want you to remember." As the world around them twisted further into chaos, Laura gripped her friends tightly, ready to plunge into the depths of the secrets hidden away. "We need to know the truth," she whispered, her heart pounding louder than the sound of the swings in motion. But as they prepared to confront their past, the flickering plunged once more into darkness, consuming them. The ground began to tremble, a warning that something below was awakening, an even deeper horror they'd yet to face. What waited down there in the murky depths? And could the truth set them free, or would it seal their fates forever? The moment the darkness swallowed them whole, a cold silence fell like a suffocating blanket. They were suspended in nothing, disoriented, as if caught in a limbo between worlds. A chill coursed through Laura's skin, and she stumbled, reaching for her friends, only to find empty air. Panic surged within her. Mark. Jennifer. Robert. Nothing. The name echoed back to her, muffled and distorted, like a haunting melody lost in an empty room. Gradually, a soft light blinked back to life, revealing twisted remnants of what was once the playground, now transformed into a grotesque mockery of itself. The swings hung still, their haunting squeaks muted. The merry-go-round lay on its side, its vibrant colors faded to sickly gray. The laughter had vanished, replaced by a heavy stillness that pulsed with a sinister energy. Something skittered across the ground. Laura's heart raced as her eyes darted around. Shadows shifted, coiling together like dark serpents, merging and fading. A pair of wide eyes appeared, peering out from the gloom, glistening with the remnants of childhood innocence, now twisted into malevolence. "Help us," the child whispered, its voice mingling with the tearing sound of the darkness. "No!" Laura shouted, backing away, her own breath catching in her throat. "You're not real." But even as she said it, doubt wormed its way through her thoughts. What if they were? What if this place held the truths they had buried deep, the very secrets they had fled from? The shadows thickened and, in a flash, the phantom child flickered, as if fighting against an unseen gravity. "Remember us, Laura, you can't escape." Suddenly, a chilling wind swept through, and the lights flickered violently. Each blink felt like a stutter in time, revealing flashes of memory, bursts of laughter, echoes of fights, and then screams raw and piercing. The air grew heavy, weighed down by something dark and insistent. "No!" Laura cried, clutching her head. The specter of her childhood loomed around her, and within the chaos, she saw flashes of Robert, Mark, and Jennifer through the shifting darkness struggling against invisible binds. "Laura!" Robert's voice pierced through the chaos, his figure half-formed, caught in a battle between light and shadow. "We have to remember together." It wasn't a suggestion, it was a plea that cut through her fear. They were all entangled in the web of their past, each haunted by pieces they wanted to forget. Slowly, she forced her mind to reach back, to the laughter that grew sour, to the games turned deadly. Remember what happened, remember the day they stopped playing. With a sudden jolt, memories flooded back unbidden, the day they learned the truth about the playground. The screams of the children who played too close to the edge of reality. The game of light and darkness that had trapped them in this distorted world. "Together!" Laura shouted, feeling a surge of warmth. Holding on to the thought, she clutched her fists, and called out to her friends, her voice echoing with strength. "We can break the cycle. We need to face it. Now!" As if in response to her resolve, the ground shook, a fierce rumble that reverberated through the nightmare landscape. With every heartbeat, the shadows withdrew, gnashing their ethereal teeth. Laura fought to stay grounded, her heart pounding with a frenzied tempo, but from beneath the swirling fountain of darkness, a roar erupted. A malevolent force was awakening, pulling the threads of the past back into formation. "Laura, look out!" Mark's frantic cry reached her just as the ground cracked open, sending a jagged fissure slicing through their chaotic reality. From the depths, pale hands reached up, grasping for their escape. The laughter returned, but now it was darker, more sinister. Those memories were not just echoes, they were the forces pulling them back to a terrible truth they must finally confront. Would they fall into darkness, or could they reclaim their past? The answer lay just beyond the crack, waiting to ensnare them with one final secret. The ground trembled, shaking them to their core. Laura's heart raced and her breath came in frantic bursts. She could see Robert's silhouette wavering in the shifting gloom, but the darkness thickened, clawing at her mind. "Don't let go!" Laura shouted, reaching towards him desperately. Each step took a monumental effort, as if she waded through thick mud. The air crackled with a dark energy, heavy like a storm threatening to break. "Fight it, Laura!" Robert's voice strained, barely audible over the clatter and roar of the darkness. Shadows swept past, long, sinewy limbs reaching for her. Bile rose in her throat as dread washed over her, filling her with a sense of impending doom. In a heartbeat, Jennifer's face flickered into view, her eyes wide with terror, pleading. "Remember, Laura, the game." The shadows skittered, tightening around them. Nightmarish whispers echoed in her ears, pulling her back to the day everything changed. The playground, once their sanctuary, became a twisted playground of horror, a stage for memories they hoped to bury. Laura couldn't breathe. The echoes of children laughing turned into shrieks, each word redefining their innocence into betrayal. "Get to the playground!" Mark yelled. "We're running out of time." But where was that? The landscape had morphed into an abyss of despair. The merry-go-round twisted into a creature of malice, its metal arm stretching out like a predator ready to strike. Before she knew it, Laura was running. She sprinted past swings with rusted chains, past the grimy sandbox that had once been filled with magic. In this distorted version, the sand whispered, "Stay play." Clenching her fists, she pushed through the pull of their past, yearning for the laughter that belonged to a time long lost. "Follow the sound of my voice," Robert yelled, his voice breaking through the chaos. He was a beacon against the darkness swallowing her. But just as she reached for him, a figure loomed ahead, silhouetted against the faint light. It were the children, the ones they lost. Their faces twisted in fear, barely recognizable, mouths opened wide in silent screams. "Why didn't you save us?" they chorused, their voices layered like a terrifying chorus from beyond the grave. "Stop!" "No!" Laura screamed, staggering back. The weight of their gaze crushed her spirit, like iron chains binding her hands as they reached out. For a moment, she felt herself breaking apart, every sorrow and fear of her past flooding back. "Laura!" The urgency in Jennifer's voice shattered the moment, pulling her back, drawing her focus away from the mournful wails of the past. "We can defeat them together." Gathering all her strength, Laura turned away from the shadows creeping ever closer. She focused on Robert's voice, the cadence igniting a fire within her. They needed to confront the truth twisted into their memories. "On 3. She shouted, determination shining through her fear. 1, 2, 3. The moment resonated through the playground, and as they joined hands, a sudden blinding light emanated from their connection. The shadows shrieked, recoiling amidst the brilliance. But Laura felt something within her. The darkness wasn't just out there. It was part of her now. The shadow whispered her name, promising to return. "Laura, hold on!" Mark yelled, pulling her toward the light, even as a sinister whisper echoed in her mind. "If you don't confront the truth, you'll never escape." The ground shook harder as the light fought the shadows, but the voices turned desperate, clawing at her conscience. What truth must they confront? As their bonds strained under the pressure, Laura felt her grip weaken, her mind racing. She was losing control. And she knew, the final confrontation would reveal their worst fears. What would they find if they pushed through the light? It was the moment of truth, but could she face the shadow lurking deep within her? The blinding light surged, enveloping them in an otherworldly glow. It banished the malevolent shadows, but the sense of safety was fleeting. Beneath the brightness, a dark pulse lingered, whispering nightmares. Laura squeezed Robert's hand tighter, her heart thudding wildly against her ribs. "Don't let it in!" Mark shouted, his face stricken with fear. "Don't listen!" The light dimmed, revealing the playground in an unsettling reality. With every flicker, echoes of laughter morphed into unearthly cries. The once inviting swings creaked, as if alive, their chains strained and rusted from years of abandonment. "This place, it's all wrong," Laura breathed, panic rising. Memories jagged like broken glass sliced through her mind, each shard a reminder of the game they played, the game that had torn them apart. As the reality twisted, the children's silhouettes emerged again, their faces etched with urgency and sorrow. "Why did you forget us?" Their voices weaved through the air like a chilling breeze. "We need you know." Laura screamed, stumbling back, but it was too late. Their voices gathered force, wrapping around her, dragging her into the tide of their sorrow. Robert's grip faltered as the shadows surged forward. "Laura, focus. Find the truth." His voice fought against the wave, desperate and frantic. The merry-go-round glimmered ominously, its arms stretching out like the talons of a monstrous beast. The truth wasn't just a memory, it was a choice. She could retreat, succumb to darkness, or forge ahead into the light, even knowing the cost. "Laura, you can't give in," Jennifer urged, her eyes fierce with determination. As if sensing their struggle, the figures of the children began to advance, their ethereal forms blurring, merging with the very darkness they had once fled. Laura inhaled sharply. A flicker of resolve coiled in her gut. "If we are going to confront this," she whispered, feeling the weight of every unshed tear, "then we need to remember everything." The ground trembled, fissures snaking underfoot as a howling wind deafened her ears. Memories flooded back, fragments of laughter, echoes of game rules, but also shadows of betrayal lurking beneath. "Remember the tree!" Laura shouted suddenly, a fragment of her memory rising above the storm. "The big one near the sandbox. That's where it all began. Run! To the tree!" Mark shouted, voice breaking through the chaos. They surged forward with renewed vigor, rushing past the grotesque memories clawing at their heels. But the playground twisted further, morphing into a labyrinth of horrors. Each step felt heavier, the darkness clawing desperately to pull them back. "Laura! The dark can't touch you if you don't let it." Robert pierced through the haze. The word struck her like lightning. They barreled toward the monstrous oak, its gnarled branches stretching skyward, its bark rough and weathered. Upon reaching it, Laura pressed her palms against the trunk, the rough texture grounding her. She closed her eyes, sparsely illuminated by the dwindling light. "Show us!" she shouted, desperation lacing her voice. "Let us remember." A deafening howl erupted from the tree, and the ground exploded beneath them. Roots writhed and crawled, revealing a portal, dark and pulsing, its edges alive with flickering energy. The children's faces materialized around her, distorting with anguish and confusion. "You were supposed to protect us," they wailed, their voices crashing together like waves. The shadows danced, mocking their sorrow. "Laura!" Robert's voice broke through the chaos. "The truth is in the shadows. You have to confront it now." The portal flickered with ominous pulses, beckoning her into the dark. Laura's heart raced, a wild panic threatening to overtake her. Could she really face what lay beyond? As the wind howled with regret and longing, she took a step forward, terrified yet resolute. The choice loomed. What truth would she unlock? Would she find salvation or plunge deeper into darkness? One breath, one choice. She reached toward the void, ready to unearth what had haunted them all along. What awaited her on the other side? The darkness enveloped Laura as she stepped through the portal, a chilling draft slicing through her skin like knives. Her senses exploded with cold as if she had plunged into icy waters. Behind her, the playground faded into a dim memory, and a suffocating void closed in. She was alone. "Laura!" Mark's voice echoed, muffled by the heavy air. It felt distant, lost in the oppressive weight of shadow. Fear prickled her skin as she twisted around, trying to find her friends. Were they still with her? Or had they been swallowed by the darkness? The air was thick, clinging to her like a suffocating blanket. She pressed forward, each step eliciting a shiver of dread. The ground felt unstable beneath her, shifting with her every move. Shapes danced at the corners of her vision, flickering reminders of childhood nightmares, of remnants that lived on in the darkness. Ahead lay a glimmer, a flicker of light, but it was dim and flickering like a dying star. The pulse of something ancient throbbed in the air, vibrating against her chest. Could it be the truth? The answers she desperately sought. As she neared the light, shadows erupted from the ground, coiling up like serpents. Their whispers filled her ears, a cacophony of regret and despair. "Why did you leave us?" they hissed. "You promised to keep us safe." "Stop!" Laura shouted, her voice trembling. "I didn't forget. I'm here now. I want to help you." But the shadows only laughed. Harsh, choking sounds that echoed with bitterness. The childhood laughter she once loved twisted unnaturally, merging with cries of torment. The very air thickened with their resentment, and for a moment, she stumbled, overwhelmed by their bitterness. "Remember us?" A mighty voice broke through the commotion, deep and resonant like thunder. "You cannot hide forever from your choices. The darkness has a way of clawing back." It was a chilling reminder of their past, the buried truth they had tried to ignore. The intentions of childhood games had turned into horrific consequences. Each of them had made a choice, and those choices darkened this realm. "Face it," the voice commanded. "Face the horror of what you did." Suddenly, the light grew stronger, and Laura was pulled into it, spiraling into visions of their forgotten memories. She saw the tree again, the great oak she had felt drawn to, but its bark now dripped with shadows, festering wounds of neglect. Visions flashed, both vibrant and twisted, birthdays filled with laughter, playgrounds alive with joy, and then a swift darkness that enveloped the fun. The accident, the moment everything fractured, the choice leading to despair. Every face that had laughed now bore stained frowns, lost hopes swirling like ghosts in that cursed place. Her heart raced, panic swelling. "No. Please, that's not who I am anymore." Tears streamed down her face as she fought against the rising tide of guilt, but the shadows laughed louder. They surged forward, a wave of grief and agony pressing against her. The terrible memories gnawed at her, threatening to pull her under, dragging her down to join the horde of wailing children who had suffered in silence. "Remember or be forgotten," the shadows whispered, their chilling chorus ringing in her ears. As desperation flooded her senses, Laura realized she could not just remember, she needed to confront what they had all long avoided. Taking a shaky breath, she yelled into the darkness, "Enough. I will not be ruled by this. I will fight for you. I will face the truth." The shadows recoiled, momentarily stunned. She felt a flicker of warmth replace the chill monster that grasped her. The faint light pulsed as if reacting to her call, but would it be enough? With her heart pounding, Laura took a step further into the light. If she could harness it, perhaps they could rewrite their story. Could she actually confront the source of their suffering? What other horrors awaited her in this flickering abyss? Was this the beginning of redemption or the descent into a deeper nightmare? The ground trembled beneath Laura's feet as she stepped deeper into the light. A warmth encased her, pushing back against the cold darkness lurking just outside her view. As she strode forward, she felt the shadows quiver, a collective shudder that rippled through the air. Memories flooded her mind again, echoes of laughter, shouts of joy, but then that sickening crash that had changed everything. "Remember or be forgotten," the shadows mocked, their grip tightening like iron cuffs. But Laura refused. No more. No more hiding. Together. She shouted, reaching for the growing light. "Mark. Jennifer. Robert." Her voice sliced through the oppressive gloom. One by one, outlines emerged behind her, shimmering with determination. They were all part of this, they had to face what haunted them, together. As Mark grasped her shoulder, and Jennifer and Robert aligned beside her, the flickering light surged, overlapping with their united resolve. "We won. Let the darkness win," Mark declared. "Not after everything we've gone through." "Let us end this," Jennifer added, her voice steady. "We owe it to the kids. We owe it to ourselves." The truth echoed amongst them, reverberating against the shadows, demanding to be embraced. The shadows writhed, coiling around them in a desperate play for control, but Laura stood firm, her heart racing with power and unity. "We were children then," she cried out, lost and afraid, "but we're adults now. We can break this cycle." The darkness constricted, and suddenly, under the weight of their memories, a shriek erupted from the abyss, reverberating around them. "You cannot defy your past." It howled, but they pressed on, the light intensifying, shimmering bright like the hope burning within them. Suddenly, the world spun around them, spiraling as memories collided, and the portal they stepped through looked back, revealing the moment of their childhood terror laid bare. The playground stood before them, twisted and broken. The playground where their laughter had turned tragic and where the shadows of their choices towered high. "This is the moment." Laura shouted, not for just us, but for them. They surged toward the wreckage of their past. As they neared the tree once a symbol of joy, now a harbinger of pain, the branches twisted, revealing ghostly figures of children, their faces twisted in a blend of sorrow and understanding. "Face us!" the shadows cried in their haunting choir. "You abandoned us." Each child held out their hands, and in that moment, Laura did the impossible. She understood. Buried deep within her was not just fear but profound regret, an anchor pulling her down into the depths of anguish. "I'm sorry," she shouted, the words bursting forth like flames igniting the night. "We thought we could ignore it. But we were wrong." Her words rang like bells through the shadows, vibrating with truth, stirring something deep below. One by one, the ghostly children stepped forward, the memories blending her fear, their torment, their broken innocence becoming threads woven into a tapestry of shared grief. The light grew brighter as the shadows began to retreat, pulled away by the warmth of understanding. "You can't run anymore," Robert yelled. "We can heal, together." The darkness screeched, a horrific wail that echoed against the fabric of their haunted childhood. But it didn't stand a chance against their collective resolution. The shadows twisted, contorting, attempting to pull them apart, but Laura and her friends gripped each other's hands tighter. "We remember. We weren't strong enough to save you then," Laura shouted, tears running freely down her cheeks, "but we can honor you now. We will never forget." With one final, defiant yell, they charged forward, moving as one against the darkness. And in that moment, light exploded into the night, a radiance that blinded the shadows, sending them fleeing. It was beautiful, a resurrection born from sorrow. A shimmering warmth enveloped them as they felt their childhood begin to mend. The playground echoed with joyful laughter, the shadowed echoes transforming back into sweet melodies of innocence. They stood together, unbroken, bathed in brilliance as the light swallowed the past whole, healing them piece by piece. Finally, the air cleared, and a tranquil silence descended. They blinked away tears, relief washing over them like a cleansing tide. They had faced their darkness together and emerged stronger, bound by a new understanding. "We did it," Mark breathed, incredulous but grateful, glancing at Laura. Laura looked at her friends, feeling the raw power of their connection. "We will always remember. We'll keep those memories alive." As they stepped away from the echoes, the playground began to fade into the soft morning light, but rather than fear, there was a gentle promise, one of hope and healing. As they walked from the remnants of their childhood, their shoulders brushing against one another, freedom enveloped them like a fresh start, a dawn. They looked ahead, their hearts light as they shared smiles, knowing they could face the future, together. Remember, the past may haunt us, but love will always lead us home. So now, if you found strength in their journey, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Trust me, it makes a difference. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support is what keeps these stories coming, so show your love and don't miss out.